It's a bit too hot.
Well, welcome to another Hobby Voxcast. This time we welcome Chef to B-Bone's box.
B-Bone's box of
Voxes.
Ah, very good. I like it.
Did you like that?
I like that a lot.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Thank you.
So this is the second chapter in our instalment on letting you guys know a bit more about who we are, what we like about our hobby, and just getting to know us a little bit better, you know. And again, we're going to be doing this with all the teammates over the next few weeks. And then if any of our guests are up for it, when we start having visitors, we may even start doing it with them as well. So, Chef.
Yeah. That's me.
Chef is here. So you've now started working with us full time.
Yeah, so this is the 4th day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
No, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I mean, it's something that we've obviously all talked about for a long time doing. I know you've been doing it for, nearly a year now?
Yeah,
With
nearly.
Lawrence?
Yeah, nearly. He and I were kind of steering the ship for a while.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a little bit of help, which is good.
So, I mean, I'm just on one side of the oars,
Yeah.
just going around in circles now.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It's great to be doing something that I do feel sort of so passionately about, and with people that are, you know, sort of the right sort of mindset as me, you know, so.
You stop that. You stop that immediately. Cool, man.
All right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay, fine then.
Cool.
But yeah, so I think it's very much, you know, there's a lot to learn because I don't have as much of the sort of the filming experience as you guys. There's a lot to pick up and do.
Yeah.
But that'll come with time. So you know, forgive me. I will get there.
Yes, you will.
But because I'm doing it full time now, it's going to be quite intensive, and hopefully should be up to speed. You know, in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the best way to do it is to throw you straight into the deep end.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'm a big believer in the whole, just not like just do it, but
not quite Nike.
Yeah, no, not quite. I'm not sporty enough for that sort of stuff.
Look at who you're talking to here. Come on, look at this. Look at this.
I don't want to. But you know, there's only so much that, you know, theory and classroom can do compared to sort of practical application.
100%. So, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, what is kind of your background? Like, I mean, because everyone kind of knows, like Lawrence and I, we met at acting school with Sanger, and we had Stig on, and, you know, he's told us a bit more about his background. So, you know, what was your background, and kind of what led you to 40K?
So, I mean, my background is a bit of an all over one.
Right.
So, I mean, I went to university. I have a degree in psychology.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
So, you know, the tables will soon turn, and I will be asking you the question. No, that's nonsense.
No.
It's psychologist, not psychic.
Yeah.
So I mean, I did that at university, and then I just sort of did like little, not like odd jobs here and there, just sort of, you know, kind of, you know, wandered aimlessly in a way.
Sure.
You know, it was kind of, you know, you just kind of trying to find what fits. I was in the pub industry for a while, thought that was for me, and then went, actually, no, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. That's nonsense.
Yeah. So you'll only work about 70 here, so
yeah,
well done.
No, that's okay. But then, you know, I've done, you know, some sales jobs. I was in logistics and sort of buying / procurement for the last few years.
Right.
But I did work for Games Workshop at one point.
Did you indeed?
And that's where I met Lawrence.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
That's quite serendipitous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really weird. So I was actually in the Covent Garden store.
Yeah.
Which was the local to him.
Yep.
And he used to come in sort of on a lunch hour, and we just got chatting, and, you know, obviously, you know, I'm a nice guy, he's a nice guy. You know, these things just fall into place.
Of course.
And he mentioned about what he was planning to do with Tabletop Tactics. And at this point, I mean, I'd been playing 40K. I started 40K when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
It was actually my brother that got me into it.
Right.
He was playing the Lord of the Rings miniatures games.
Great game.
Which is a really, really good game, actually.
I love the models in that.
The models are great. The rule set's really tight.
Yeah.
But we went into our local store one day, and with my dad, because he wanted to pick up like a new box of like Moria Goblins or whatever it was. And I went in with them, and I saw the 3rd edition box set of Black Templars versus Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I found my calling.
I must have it.
Like, I basically said to my dad, I was like, Dad, I need this. And he was
Yeah.
like, but it's £50. I mean, £50 for a starter box set now.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be like, whoo.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Sure, yeah, great. I'll take
have
4.
7. Yeah.
But, you know, so, I mean, that was, what, now 18 years ago.
Yeah. And have you had a break?
I took a break during uni because it was university. I found women and alcohol.
Yeah, sure.
But I did actually get back into it because I went to uni in Southampton. I stayed down in Southampton for a few years after I'd graduated, and there was the store there, and I was started visiting there. And that's when I picked it up again. But going back to when I sort of met Lawrence and he mentioned about tabletop tactics, and I was like, oh, well, what's that all about? Now, bear in mind, I'd been in the hobby for a long, long time. I mean, yes, I took a break for about 5 years, but I got back into the hobby. It would have been 2011 that I got back into the hobby.
Wow.
So about 8 years ago. So, mini wargaming was a thing at this point. I'd never heard of anyone doing video battle reports or, like list analysis or talking about the hobby online. I knew about like your online journalist type stuff, like the news stuff. I was a big visitor of the Games Workshop forum when they had an official forum. I do miss that.
Yeah.
I used to be on there all the time when I was a kid.
I believe it.
It explains so much.
Yes, it does.
So I was like, that sounds really bizarre, but hang on. So he sort of explained it. He was like, would you like to come along? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? This was very early days, not quite, the sort of the first few months, but I think, this was back when it was in the kitchen.
Sure.
And I was like, sure, that sounds like fun, and for me it was more like, yeah, cool, well, I've made a new friend. I get to play some games of 40k, we get to chat, grab some takeaway, have a few drinks, have a laugh, and it happens to be filmed for the internet. And I'm like, this isn't going to be a big deal. And
here we are.
4 years down the line, more like 3.5 for me, I think, because the channel as a whole has been running for about 4 years, hasn't it? So I was just, and it's just sort of, like taken off.
Yeah.
Like, thanks in part to you guys, obviously. So clearly we're doing something right, and by we, I mean Lawrence and you. And I'm just along for the ride. It's great.
Well, you're now a fully fledged member of the team, and I will give Chef some props. He is taking to it very well. The improvement that I have seen, even just this week, is incredible. It's really good work, man. It's really good work.
Thank you.
So that's a bit more about how you arrived here. That's really interesting. So obviously we know you as the chef. And,
yes.
A lot of people kind of know you for your rants.
It's true.
And
I have a few.
You do like to talk about your hobby very passionately.
That's one way of putting it, which is a very polite way of putting it.
But it is true. But the thing is with me, because whenever you're here, you always seem to play like a different army, or we bring you on mainly to discuss things like, codex releases and all that sort of stuff. But there is a reason that we gave you the nickname Chef.
Yes.
And that was because of your Necron flyers, I believe.
Yeah, so what it was, I believe how it sort of transpired, because obviously Lawrence, called himself the Spider.
Yep.
That's Lawrence for you.
There we go.
Beard is Beard. There is no Joe. It's only Beard.
Yeah.
Fairly obvious why.
Yeah.
For me, it was like they were trying to think of a nickname, and I was running Necrons at the time. I just finished the Necron army that I use. I'm really proud of it. I'm going to bring it on the channel.
Yeah, and you had your croissants.
I had a croissant, and I had one of the Ghost Arcs. So it's obviously a giant baguette and a croissant. So it was just like pastry chef just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I'm not actually a pastry chef. I'm not actually a trained chef.
Very good cook, though.
I am a very good cook.
I've had some pleasant meals at your abode, and let me tell you, they are delicious.
Thank you. And I have worked in kitchens.
Yeah.
Not as a chef, more like as a line cook.
Sure.
And that was during sort of my time in the pub industry, because you kind of just have to go all hands on deck when you're managing a pub, which is not fun.
No. I've worked in pubs too. I don't mind working in pubs.
I actually really enjoy it, but it's very, very full on. Yeah, and it is non-stop.
And it's life consuming.
It is, and if that's for you, that's awesome. For me, I did it for a few years, and I can't knock it because it's where I met loads of good friends. It's where I met my girlfriend, and in a way, it's almost serendipitous, because when I left there, that's when I started for Games Workshop. And so
and
from there, it was almost
slowly building up.
It was almost that sort of, like fate, destiny, serendipity, whatever you want to call it, what you believe in, however. It's almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It's like I had to do that to realise that this is where I'm meant to be, sort of thing. Yeah. And sometimes you've got to do that just in life in general.
Yeah, life's a journey.
Yeah,
there you go.
It is.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. Make some pretty good food if I do say so.
You do. It's good. So would you say then? Because I mean, I guess the question I was asking is, so would you say that the Necrons are your army? Because I see you play everything.
Yeah. So I mean, I am a dabbler.
Okay.
I am the sort of person that, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the channel before. I'm sure I have, because it's me. I've probably mentioned everything about 7 times and everyone's sick of hearing of it. I generally tend to build an army list and then build that army.
Sure.
And then it's done.
Sure.
Which is very difficult in the current 8th edition rules, because everything changes every 3 months.
Yes.
But it was like when I first started, it was Black Templars, because I was like 10, 11 years old. Black and white was still a struggle to paint.
Of course.
But it was like, I can do this. This is great. I just need to spray them black and do white shoulder pads. Blob of silver on the gun. Done.
You're good to go.
So Black Templars were my first army. So part of me has always wanted to go back to Black Templars.
Nice.
But then after that I did Tau, and then I lost my Tau army in my move to university, because when I moved to university I was
as in physically lost?
I physically lost it. So
that is a sad day for the toga.
It was a very sad day. So when trying to think now. So I started with Black Templars, then I went to Lizamen in fantasy.
Right.
Because I just really like the look of Aztec dinosaurs riding dinosaurs.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I get it. I'm 100%
down. So I then went to that. Then I did a Tau army, because I was like, it's so totally different to Black Templars, which was a combat army.
Yeah.
And the Tau are really cool. Like, I am a big fan of anime even now. I was back then. And I like their playstyle, the jump, shoot, jump, the long range firepower.
Let's not speak about jump, shoot.
It's very upsetting. But
well, who knows what the future holds,
right? So then I had the Tau army, and then I had an Ogre Kingdoms army. This was when they just come out for Fantasy Battle.
Okay.
And I remember getting the limited edition box set, because it had like the metal guy with the ogre pistol in it. I converted it up with the help of my dad to give him like a great weapon. So we basically had like this old broken bit of tire. And it fitted perfectly with the ogres, because they're constantly hungry.
Yes, of course.
And it fitted. We sort of put basically the rubber bands around a wooden dowling that he was holding. So he had this giant bit of broken, like, just tire hubcap, for want of a better word. But everyone started referring to it as a spatula, because it just looked like a giant spatula on a stick. I'm like, well, he's an ogre. Of course it's a spatula. He's just shoveling them into his gob. So it was brilliant.
So maybe that's subconsciously where Chef came from.
Yeah. But then I lost the Tau army when I went to uni. And that might have been part and parcel of me, sort of taking a break. Because I was just like, you know what? I've lost an entire army, which is, even then hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
Forget this sort of thing. And then I walked past the store one day and I was like, I'm going to get back into it. And I picked up the Tau Codex.
Yeah.
So I rebuilt my Tau army. I then did a Chaos army for 3.5. I actually did the Chaos army for 3.5, and then that got converted into Chaos as they are now. So we don't talk about that.
Sure.
And then from there, I did the Necrons only when I started in Games Workshop, because I was like, I want to do something new.
Yeah.
I really like the theme of them. I always like the theme of the Necrons, and I think the 5th edition book for them, which I know some people dislike because of the changes to the fluff, I really liked it.
Right.
Because they went from being faceless, soulless monstrosities, which was basically robot Tyranids. They were the Terminator.
It was a bit like Terminator.
They were the Terminator. That was the point. But an army of Terminators is kind of, there's no soul to it, literally.
Yeah.
And then when they sort of introduced that and made them more, like this sort of space pharaohs, kind of like Tomb Kings in space was, the sort of the common derogatory term. But I was like, this is really cool. It just gives them some flavour. And I just really enjoy playing the Necrons, because you're not tied into sort of one play style, I feel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're my main army. I don't really have like a main army. They were the ones that I used in all the heats last year.
Yeah.
And they are certainly ones that I do enjoy the most to play in current 8th edition.
Sure. So what is your favourite thing then about them?
I just think it's the fact that they can kind of...
In the game I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's that notion of you can specialise into something, but you know what? You've got some tools, you've got some tricks, you can kind of run, a whole mix, a whole range of armies without being set into a playstyle. And I've always been a big fan of like balanced armies.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the idea of just going, that's really good, I'm going to take 3 of it.
Sure. Depending
on the game style that you're playing, that's sometimes what you have to do. But for me, it's kind of like, I just want the one tank, and that tank's kind of like the linchpin. Like I like sort of the mix of, because I like variety on the table.
Sure.
And I think Necrons just have a lot of that. There's some stuff that is just, it's good at doing various things, or at least they were. The old Gauls rule was fantastic, and now that's not a thing.
Yeah, change is difficult, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So it sounds like to me you're a bit more of a kind of like a fluffy player, really. Which I find interesting because your analytical brain can really pick apart and actually I reckon you could do very competitive things if you wanted to very easily. So what is it that, where's the crossover there? Why haven't you taken the plunge, as it were? You know what it is? I personally think it's just, like, everyone has a preference on their gameplay and on their game style. For me, I have played, sort of some competitive games. And this is not to say that I have played, competitive games that have been bad. I think actually the vast majority of the competitive games that I've played have been very, very fun. Yeah. But for me, it's the stagnation of it. Okay. And what I mean by that is it's kind of, hi there, my name's Mike. Oh yeah, hi, my name's John. It's like, oh yeah, this is my Necronist. And people immediately assume, so you've got 3 Doomsday Arc, 3 Doom Scythes, 9 Tesla Tomb Blades, 9 of this, 9 of that, 9 of that. But I'm just as much to blame. I turn around and go, what is it you've got? Oh, I've got Imperial Knights. Do you have a Law of 32? If that, of course you do. Yeah. There's something about it that to me is just kind of, there's no... It just feels stagnant in that, yes, in theory, if everyone is running the same list, it does come down to who the best general is, but that's not quite the case. Sure. Whereas I think there's more skill involved if you're running an army that doesn't have 3 of the best of everything and maybe is taking some subpar choices. And also I think that way you can kind of get a bit more of a story behind the game. Yeah. And that for me has always been a big one. And I think that sort of stems from when I was learning to play. I don't know if they do it anymore, but there used to be a program that Games Workshop would run, and it would run every Sunday. And you would slowly build up your army over the course of like 2 months. Yeah. And it would be like the first game, just bring a squad of guys. Right. And everyone's run out of ammo, so we're going to learn just moving and charging. That was it. Cool. And then the next week was learning shooting. And then the week after that was learning heroes. Then the week after that was learning vehicles. The week after that was doing like a 500-point game. And that sort of development kind of made you feel a bit more attached to your army. 100%. Rather than just going, this is really good, I need it in my army. Rather than going, why is this in my army? Yeah. And there's a backstory. And I love writing backstories for stuff. I mean, I went to a campaign weekend with the Ashen Huntsman at the end of 7th edition, and I wrote up a before and after like each game, based on the results of the game, based on the overall narrative that was happening at the campaign weekend. And I think it ran to about 20 pages, and I just did that for fun. Yeah. Like, because I was just like, and like that sort of created the story of Artan Valeris and why they're sort of kind of drifting away from the Imperium, and like why he is how he is in like my sort of head canon type thing, and it's all, but that for me is part of the fun. They are quote unquote your dudes at the end of the day, rather than just sort of chess pieces. Yeah. And yes, sometimes you've got to play the game like that. You've got to make those tactical decisions, sort of that, such as the cold calculus of war and all that. 100%. But I think the competitive play, that mindset, that like utter brutality of it,
And you know what? I appreciate it for what it is. I think for me, it doesn't speak to me because it's just there's not enough variety in it at the moment. But
Sure.
who knows what might happen? You know, it's getting bigger and bigger. You know, there's some real big names in the competitive scene. You know, people that do it professionally now, which is know, if 4 years ago
playing 40k professional. I mean, we do.
We don't do it. I mean, we're professionals, but we're not professional players.
No. And I find that incredible.
Which is awesome.
It almost feels like it's going to go the way of esports or something like that.
I don't think it will. I don't think
Not
it will.
well within its own realm. I mean, I don't know. If you think about it, we've already got the. I mean, we already have people watching it online all the time and all that sort of stuff, and they are trying to do like a lot. We don't really do live streaming, but there are a lot of channels that do, and then they cover the whole event and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely a market for it. I think just whenever anyone says esports to me, I think of big stadiums packed to the rafters.
Sure.
That to me is an esport.
But
as someone who follows esports, you know, quite a few of them. Okay. So to me, when someone says like 40k esports, I kind of go, yeah. I mean, but like, I'm trying to think. Was LVO not this year, but the one before? And you know, it was the final, and I think it had something like 12,000 views, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But then you look at it and you go, but League of Legends had something like 250 million.
Yeah.
Like, it's nowhere on the same level, and I think people are like expecting it to get to that level, and I don't think it will. I think there's certainly a market for it, but remember, we're a niche within a niche within a niche.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, that's not to say that people are trying. You know, and great. You know, that's the thing. If people don't try it, we'll never know. I can sit here and speculate. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to.
I think
you know.
I think it could happen.
I would love to be wrong.
I'm an optimist.
I'm not. As everyone knows.
Cool. Okay, that's nice. So then, it's interesting because, you know, obviously when I spoke to Stig, like, he's very AdMech orientated and stuff, and you are literally a chef of many pies, as it were.
I like variety. I just like, I literally to have my fingers in many pies, because I think for me, I would get bored of the same army, like if I had to use it over and over and over again, and that's just personal preference.
Sure.
And it's kind of why I write the list, I build the army, and then I kind of like put it to one side and go, right, well, what can I do now, rather than going, you know. And again, nothing. I mean, your Tau, for example. I mean, you've been playing for what, 3 and a bit years now?
Yeah.
How many points of Tau do you have?
It's too many.
It's too many.
Yeah.
It's too much.
I've almost got it all.
Yeah.
I need to get some, you know, like the Manta and all that.
Yeah, you're going to go for the big boy.
I'll get it.
Yeah, you will, of course.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's the thing. That's your army. Whereas for me, I feel like it's kind of like, I'd love to have it, but if I'm never going to use it, what's the point?
Yeah, no, I get that. So it's more like...
I'm very much a gamer rather than a collector,
so it's
for sure.
It's more like it's your... Like, I've got my army, but you've got your kind of game, like you just say. This is the game I want to play. Okay. And we've talked a bit about what you really like about the game, you know, building all these different lists and all this sort of stuff. And I'm going to ask you this at my own peril.
Prepare yourselves!
So where the game is sitting now at the moment. So I think we're in a really exciting spot. We've had the new Space Marine Codex just come out, and we are actually going to film that Voxcast tomorrow, guys. So thank you for being patient with us.
Yeah. The stars will align.
The stars will align eventually. There's a lot going on in the background here. I mean, we haven't seen much of Lawrence at all, and that's because he's just so busy.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually on the precipice of something really interesting. I don't know this for sure, but it even feels like a new edition's probably not far away. But there are certain things which I know, which, you know, you like to rant about.
How much time do we have?
Well, we have a little bit of time, but like in a succinct, positive way. I mean, what would you like to see change at the moment that you think would bring more variety, perhaps, into like the competitive scene, like you said?
Okay, so I think for me, one of the major changes is the rewarding of mono armies.
Yeah.
Soup. As much as Games Workshop says that Soup is dead, it's never dead, it's never gone anywhere, it's never going anywhere. However, the change to the Marine armies, yes, you can still run your chapter tactics, you still get your Defenders of Humanity, you still got those little bonuses, if you were to, say, ally them into Guard, for example, which is cool. Yeah. However, to represent the fact that they are fighting as an entire, cohesive, unified army, and that's the key word there, is army versus detachment. And I've been saying this since day one that 8th dropped. It was that armies should be getting the special rules, not detachments. And now it's like, well, you know those really awesome combat doctrines that you have, you know those awesome supplements that you have. Oh, you've got an assassin in there? Nope. That immediately takes away your doctrines, takes away your successor abilities. So like, let's say you've got an Ultramarines army and you want to add an assassin to that. The minute that you do that, like written in your army, you can still like throw it in with like the command stratagems and stuff. But the minute you do that, you lose your combat doctrines, you lose your Scions of Guilliman ability, you don't get their powers, their relics, their traits, their stratagems, their tactical objectives, because you are no longer running an Ultramarines army.
Sure.
And that's the key thing for me, is rewarding mono armies and making it viable and making them attractive to play, rather than I could take this, but why would I not take this and this? Why would I do this when soup is so much better? Something like that. I think doing that across the board. So now all of a sudden, if you go, you know what, like let's take Imperial Guard, for example.
Sure.
You can still have your doctrines, like their regimental doctrines, that's what it's called. You still have your doctrines, you still have your humanities bulwark, or their objectives secure. But let's say you only get orders if you're an army. All of a sudden, that changes the gameplay of Guard drastically, and we'll obviously give them some extra benefits as well as a reward for doing a mono army, rather than punishing someone for doing a mono army, which is what it is at the moment. You are punished for running a mono army because you are at a disadvantage compared to someone who's just picking and choosing from allies in the best units. The other big change that I would make, and this would be a controversial one, is the change to the stratagem and command point system. I personally think it needs a lot of work and needs a lot of tweaking. There's some really awesome stuff you can do with it, but the problem is more and more you find yourself just going, I kind of have to run a dual battalion.
Yeah.
Well, one, if we made it so that you can't double up on detachments, that would be interesting. Because now there's no more dual battalion. You know what? You want to run a guard battalion. That's great, but you're not taking a battalion anywhere else.
Sure.
I've talked about this a lot, in regards to like warlords, and the warlord should be determining a lot of that stuff. I think there should also be a scale for the command points that you get. There is no logical reason to me as to why the Custodes, who have access to some of the greatest archaeotech in the Imperium, who are literally 10,000 years old, who have fought by the side of the Emperor, get less command points than Joe Bloggs, the Guard commander, who's just fresh out of the Office of Fleet.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And you could argue, but it represents the Guard's massive resources. You're not telling me that if the Custodes are being sent to war, if a pure Custodes force was being sent to war, something horrendous is about to go down for the Imperium.
Yeah.
Why would they not have everything available to them?
Yeah,
so that should be represented by more command points for running a purer army. And that's what I would have liked to have seen with the Space Marine book. Like, in a Ultramarines army, if every model in your army has the Ultramarines keyword, blah, 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 you also, call it Scions of the Code, or Humanity's Finest for the Space Marine, and have that apply for all Space Marine armies. You get 2 additional command points.
Great.
You know what? You don't get the battalion, but you're still getting something for just going, I'm going to run a pure army.
Yeah.
And then you could do something similar with Custodes. If every model in your army has the Adeptus Custodes keyword, you get 6 command points. If it works for knights, and this is the problem. They did that for knights because they were like, they've got all these command points and stratagems, but they can't use them. And people were like, yeah, we can. We've got Law 32. We don't care. And then Games Workshop just went, have another 3 command points, and they went, okay, great. We've now got 17 command points.
Sounds amazing.
They were loving life. Whereas every other pure army, like Tau army, like who can you ally in?
Septs. Different septs.
Which I don't agree with. I don't agree with the mixed detachments. But this is the thing. There's no one little thing that I would change to the game or subsequently. I think I would do quite a drastic overhaul. Not necessarily to the game itself. I think the system is fine, and they're working on the tweaks, as we sort of mentioned in the game that we've recently filmed. They've reworded how rerolls are working for Space Marines.
Yeah, which is
and it will make a huge difference. So, Chapter Masters, for example, now it's reroll hits, not reroll failed hits, which means you can decide that actually after a modifier this will be a miss, so I'm going to re-roll that.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it's a very clunky, messy system, and I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to limit the power of the rerolls, but you know what? Modifiers are so much more powerful than a reroll sometimes that it drastically affects it. And we mentioned it in the game that we played.
Yeah, suddenly you're on -5.
Yeah.
Do you know, hitting on 5s and all that sort of stuff, and you just kind of go like,
yeah.
Like,
what can I do?
Yeah, what can I do?
Well, we mentioned it in the game that we played. So we played Ravenwing versus Harlequins, and no spoilers, but there was a moment in the game where there was a -1 to hit. because it's Harlequins. Of course there's a -1 to hit. And so Samael, Ballistic Skill 2, means that he is only allowed to reroll 1s currently. Because he can reroll failed hits. Well, a 2 would not be a failed hit. Then the modifier applies. So it's actually beneficial to be a worse shot to get more rerolls, which from a game design point of view makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So they're working on the mechanics of the rules, they're working on those tweaks, they're working on those improvements, they're working on things like the Space Marines and making them more attractive to take. I think that it's not necessarily the mechanics of the game that need a rework, it's the structuring.
Sure.
And things like army lists, and as I mentioned, it boils down to rewarding pure armies, rewarding, those armies. Ravenwing, for example. If you're running nothing but bikes and nothing but Ravenwing, why should you be penalised with less command points than someone who's taken 15 scouts?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Again, and all it needs is a little caveat, a little extra rule, or extra detachments.
With Ravenwing, you just if you run a pure Ravenwing army, all your bikes count as troops. That's it.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or even just an alternative. Just be like, if you're running, in an Outrider detachment, if every model in a Dark Angels Outrider detachment has the Ravenwing keyword, change the command benefits from 1 to 5. So it's identical to a battalion. You don't have the troops keyword, so you're not like holding objectives secured. So there is still an advantage to having troops.
Sure.
But you're not being penalised on command points, and that's all they need to do. Is just that's like what a one, what. 8 words there.
8 words.
And that would just help level the playing field and enable people to play these fluffy armies or these cool armies. And yes, it would need a lot of tweaking and a lot of investigating and playtesting, because there could be some things that you could be absolutely horrific at doing and just go, all right, cool, I'll take 30 Black Knights then.
Yeah, exactly.
And have all of the command points. So it's an idea, but that for me is the main change that I would make, would be how armies and how lists are structured. Rule of 3 can also go away. It should be rule of 2.
Just so you tag that one in.
Yeah.
I don't mind rule of 3 because I think there's a lot of power in that number. The number for me works. I like 3. 3 is a good number.
It is the magic number.
Yeah, there's a song about it.
Yeah, it literally. Don't sing.
Okay.
I think. I mean, 3 I can kind of understand. I think again it sort of boils down to the nature of the game that you're playing and the sort of what it is that you're doing. I mean, at 2,000 points, 3 I think is fine.
Yeah.
At 1,750, 3 is too much, and I think that's where they just need to tweak it slightly and just change it to less than 1,000 points, it's 1 detachment. Less than 2,000 points, it's 2, and at less than 3,000, it's 3.
Sure.
So then that way, if you're at these big tournaments, which are using 2,000, because there is a variety, there is 1,750, there is 2,000. The game's
1,500 now.
There's 1,500 now. It's because the game's taking so long. The game is taking long. When it came out, it was great. Games were being done super quick, whereas now people have gotten used to the nuances. Stuff is getting cheaper. Stuff still dies in droves, but the game, I'm always impressed when you sort of see after action reports at tournaments and stuff, and these players have played 5 rounds with a 120 model Orc army against a 144 Plague Bearer army, and they've gotten 5 rounds in, and I'm like, that blows my tiny mind.
Yeah.
I played Gene Stealer Cults the other day with like 90 models, and it took...
It was a late day. What's the first time you'd used them?
Of course, yeah. So I mean, and again, that shows like real commitment on the part of the players themselves. So competitive play is impressive to me. I just think that the game's already taking so long. So hence some places are just doing 1,500.
Yeah.
But having the difference between say 3 Dark Talons at 1,750 and 2 is actually quite massive.
Yeah,
the difference
100%.
between 3 Repulsors, the Executioners, at 1,750 to 2K is quite massive. What's another really big one? Riptides. Can you imagine if you could only take 2 Riptides at 1,750 points? It would have changed your heat turn GT game plans massively.
Yeah.
And all of the tournaments that you went, and you did very well last year.
I did okay.
You did pretty well.
Yeah.
But now imagine having the restriction on what you can take. Not only does that mean you have to be very more clever with your list.
Very more clever.
Very more clever, he says ungrammatically. No, what I mean
know
is
what
like,
you mean.
you know what I mean?
You gotta
Where it's
think
kind of
more.
like, you have to actually plan a list rather than just going, well, 3 Riptides is the base.
Yeah.
Or 6 Broadsides is another common one.
Yeah.
This is just using Tau as an example, using Necrons as an example. You know, it's kind of like, are you playing competitive Necrons? Yes, I am. Okay, cool. So how many points are you putting into your 600 points list? 600 points, what do you mean? Well, you've got Imhotep, free Doomsday Arcs and free Doomsize, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? Oh, have fun at your tournament that you're never going to place well in.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's not true. I think someone actually placed very, very well with Necrons the other day and used something that was completely out of left field because people are expecting that now. So again, there's that sort of meta game with competitive play, which is always interesting in and of itself. Yeah. But I just think the army list building, the rule of 3, the command point generation could really, really do with an overhaul.
Yeah.
And it would be very interesting to see if that would actually work. I'm saying this like it's gospel and like it would be amazing. I'd probably do it once and go, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah. This is my fault.
I have created a monster. You know, but that's what I would change.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Cool. Very good.
You know.
Very good. So, hobby-wise, what's next for you then? Because, you know, 40k...
Yeah.
Or maybe Age of Sigmar as well. Like, because, you know, you talk a lot about, well, I make this army, then I'm done. So, I mean, you seem to be done with a few armies at the moment.
I am.
What's next?
I've not actually done a new army since I finished the Ashen Huntsman.
Okay. So
And that was the end of 7th edition. So we're talking, I think there was about a year's worth of 7th left at that point.
Right.
So we're talking about, nearly 3 years ago. I've sort of added to my Necrons. I've added to my Lizard Men for Age of Sigmar. I've bought the models for my Tau to update them for I bought all the new models that I needed for the Tau as soon as the Tau Codex dropped, and I've just not built them yet. So, you know, they've just been sandboxes for over a year now.
Yeah.
I think my next army, it will depend on what we're going to do here in the studio, because we have some plans.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're allowed to say.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
But
it's a big surprise.
Honestly, there's a lot of armies I would want to do.
Yeah? Pick one.
Pick one? No, that's impossible.
Just pick one right now.
Probably ogres.
Ogres.
But I'm waiting for the book.
Sure.
There's no point buying a load of ogres now. But this is almost based solely on the fact that, you know, I'm kind of revisiting what I've done previously. I had an ogre army. They were great fun. They're going to be really easy to do because you've got about 20 models, which for me, being the slowest painter in the world, even though I only dry brush, is going to be great. But also based off the fact that the new Tyrant looks like an absolute beast. He has a meat tenderizer. I'll just...
That's it.
I don't need to say anymore.
I'll have 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so why would I not? So I think the ogres would be a fun army because there's so few. You can kind of convert them up, make each one an individual, like paint like different coloured breeches, like different like sort of tattoos you can do for them, like different sort of modifications. You know, give some scars, give some. I used to do this with my old army, you know, like some would have like scars, some would have like, you know, like chunks of flesh missing, you know. Cool. So I think I did one where I basically stabbed into their arm, so it looked like they'd bitten, like they were that hungry, like all the time, so they'd just taken chunks out themselves. And just little things like that, which you can do when you've got like 15 models in an army. 40k wise, I have a few plans, but again, not sure what we're allowed to talk about.
Sure.
But I would do pretty much any army, really. There's something about each army that sort of does speak to me. Apart from, which one was it that it just doesn't speak to me in 40k?
Knights? You like them a little bit now, don't you? Yeah, you do. You like them. You had a game with them, and you think they're all right.
They were fun to play.
Aha!
With, but that's... No, there is a but. There is a but. And that's because I did not use twin guns.
Sure.
I went for some actual combat, which I know, you know, is still, you know, people use combat knights, but I mean, I didn't go, you know, sort of full, you know, raw power that you are capable of doing with knights. knights. I really like the models. I like the background for them. So I mean, why would I not do the army? The problem that I would have with the army is that I don't want to be taking something that where you kind of even now, and they're not as bad as they used to be in 7th edition. They're not as bad as they used to be when their codex came out, and they've received a number of nerfs and debuffs since then. They're not as bad as they used to be. But I would hate to be that person that goes to an event, whether it's a competitive event or a narrative event, which kind of makes me, I don't want to be me at one of those events just going, here we go.
I love playing knights.
Yeah, no, but you've got Tau.
Yeah.
It's far harder for Necrons.
Yeah, it's true.
You kind of go, oh, this will be fun. So and that's not fair. It's not that's not a fair statement to make. Because I think they would look really cool, but it's kind of like, would I use them as often as other armies? Probably not. And then they're therefore relegated to the shelf, which I have no shelves.
Yeah.
I've just moved house. I have no money right now, guys. I can't. We were talking about these new armies, and it's like, that's not going to happen for another 12 months. But so, I mean, and I'm not the best painter in the world. I'm not.
Oh, mate.
I'm not a great painter, but I wouldn't have them on display. Like, I don't, it sounds really bad, but sometimes you kind of go I don't feel proud of this army.
I
kind of get what you mean.
I
mean, I am, because it's like,
it's
I did this.
And yeah, I built this and I painted this and that sort of stuff. But I know what you mean. It's like when I go to a tournament and I put my Tau down, and then you look at someone and they go, oh, and they look they look really different to what they look like on camera, and I just go, don't look too close. They go, can I touch them? I say, no, don't pick that up. The closer it gets, it will ruin the illusion for you. Just don't do it.
Well, I'm a dry brush and wash kind of guy.
Me too.
So it's I'm quick and easy. But that again for me is, I think, from the aspect of the hobby, I definitely am a gamer more than I am a painter.
No,
I love building. I love converting, and I know a lot of people are like, you love building.
Yeah,
that's the most laborious bit. But for me, painting is the most laborious bit. And that's just that's just me. It's personal preference. And I think what it is because I am jealous of people that can paint really well. Yeah. And I've just never, despite over the 18 years, I've never been able to hone my painting skills. I've gotten better than I was. Sure. I highlight and stuff now, guys.
Hello.
The Ashen Huntsmen were highlighted, edge highlights.
I mean, and that's an achievement.
But it's a far cry from sprayed black Templars and. I think I brought them down, sort of done up, and the Games Workshop staff is like, oh, have you thought about putting some wash on the bolt gun to make it stand out? And I was like, why? Because at the time, you were young, I just want to play the game. The game is what excited me. Yeah. The game and the art and the story, the background and stuff.
Yeah, the lore really excited me.
Yeah, the lore was great. But yeah, it's just. For me, I don't really, like I say, I dabble. I would do every army if I could.
Yeah.
But I would probably do I've done 2,000 points of this army, maybe an extra 500 so I can, sort of chop and change stuff, wait for, sort of updates, improvements, upgrades, downgrades, or maybe just try something different. But I couldn't do I've got 10,000 points of Necrons. I'd be like, I don't need 10,000 points of Necrons. Where am I going to put 10,000 points of Necrons?
Mine are currently in boxes under my bed.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, and that can sometimes happen as well. They just go, you just not fall by the wayside, but they.
Yeah, well, it's more just you're
in a transitionary period of moving.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and my Tau are also geared in a very particular way, so they're not always the most fun to watch.
Yeah,
they either are victorious or they lose.
That's pretty much the game.
No,
draws are very
what
rare.
I mean is.
Big or but
go big, go home.
Yeah, they are a big army in that regard. Yeah, I get you.
So that's we've got Tau here that I can use. Yeah, cool. Well, I think we've delved into a bit more about yourself. I feel like we've connected on a deeper level. I'm not sure about you guys, but
they've switched off.
They've switched. Yeah, they're gone. Anyone left? Hello. No, but it's good, man, because like I say, we want to get to know everyone a bit better. Yeah. I already know you pretty well, but I mean, we haven't had you on as frequently because obviously after we stopped Cast of Players.
Yeah.
Soon. You've just had life get in the way. We haven't seen you for a while, so I think it's good that people see the other side of you, even though we did a slight rant today.
I am a person.
You are
I am a human being.
You're a human man. And I think that's excellent. So, guys, thank you for joining us today. I hope you've really enjoyed this Hobby Voxcast with the chef. Plenty more of these to come. Feedback, as always, is really welcome. All of your feedback on the last one was really lovely. I felt really proud of that. So thank you very much. And yeah, thanks, man.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this one too. And we'll see you soon. Peace.